The human brain. It is one of the most complex and ever-changing topics that science has ever attempted to tackle. And just like with fingerprints, no one has the same brain. This uniqueness can present itself in many different ways, including what we know as neurodivergence. Neurodivergence is when a mental or neurological function of the brain causes an individual to behave and/or process and learn information in a way that is different or abnormal. Neurodivergence itself can also present in a manner of ways. One form, however, is also a well of untapped potential for a large part of America's employers. That untapped well being individuals on the autism spectrum. Autism, also known as Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD for short, is identified under the National Institute of Mental Health as a neurological and developmental disorder that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. Just like how no two brains are the same, no two cases of autism are going to be exactly the same either. A common misconception is that autism operates on a linear scale, when in actuality, it operates on a spectrum. Imagine a bar graph, or better yet, a color wheel. Each color is a trait affected by autism, and the amount of it on the wheel represents how much that trait is affected by that individual's autism. Now, for all other cases of autism, you hit shuffle, and you can imagine just how many ways autism can impact people case by case. It's also becoming increasingly common as well, with the CDC citing that as of 2020, about 1 in 6 children are diagnosed with autism. This metric being 8 higher than the previous 2018 survey of 1 in 44. For reference, an entire NFL football stadium can hold 75,000-ish people. By the current metric, this means that 2,083 of those people in that stadium are likely to have some form of autism. Due to how complex the autism spectrum can be, there are an extremely large amount of autistic adults that are capable of outputting outstanding performances in whatever field they choose to be in. Despite this, the unemployment rate for college-educated autistic adults is 85% as of 2022.
We have, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have over 500,000 individuals on the spectrum that will be entering the workforce within the next few years. And we have an amazing opportunity to capitalize within the endless talent of these individuals.
These are college-educated adults that are ready and able to enter the workforce, but these companies and employers just aren't picking up on these individuals. But why? And better yet, why does it matter? Diversity in general is extremely important in a workplace. There are many studies and articles out there that point out the benefits of diversity. But what about neurodiversity specifically? Well, as it turns out, neurodiversity can be just as beneficial as baseline diversity. For example, someone on the autism spectrum might offer a unique perspective for problem solving, as the individual may process information in a way that allows them to tackle the information from a different angle. Some other known benefits of neurodiversity in the workplace are greater than normal ability to process information, creative thinking, elevated productivity, especially that elevated productivity part. There have been studies that have found those on the autism spectrum to be up to 140% more productive when compared to non-autistic employees, provided that the autistic employee is properly job matched. Those on the autism spectrum specifically have seen success in the field of cybersecurity. The field requires intense focus and other elements in areas that neurodivergent people tend to excel in, with industry experts going as far as stating that people in the neurodiverse community can remain extremely focused. Where others would get distracted or their attention would fail, they are exhaustively methodical and will work relentlessly until they find the problem, or conclude that there isn't one. These attributes are ones that are easily applicable in almost any field. Take human resources, for example. In that field, things such as payroll, paperwork, data entry, and a laundry list of other crucial tasks are going to immensely benefit from such attributes. Now, we've covered what autism is. And we've covered why companies should be encouraged to hire autistic talent. But what about why they aren't already doing so?
Let me mention this first, actually. One area I'd like to mention with regard to stigmas that I find very interesting is these stigmas have the potential to cause isolation of individuals who shouldn't be in isolation just based on perception, just based on what others, your neurotypical individuals or individuals without autism may believe, may feel, just based on those stereotypes, those stigmas, things that make individuals feel uncomfortable. These are the things that place individuals on the spectrum within these uncomfortable situations.
Autism is often stereotyped and stigmatized in a variety of ways, such as lacking empathy, lacking emotions in general, being weird, and in some cases even being outright poor performers or unintelligent people. These things could not be farther from the truth. Someone who is on the spectrum might not even display any problems at all in some or even any of these areas, and one who does isn't likely to display it in these stereotyped ways. The most commonly seen stereotypes are the ones regarding the lack of empathy and a lack of emotions in general. However, problems with empathy and emotions with people on the spectrum usually surface in the form of troubles understanding and/or acting on those emotions, which is nowhere near as severe as their stereotyped counterparts. Another stigma that autistic individuals usually face is a belief that their accommodations are troublesome to provide in the workplace. Accommodations widely vary case by case, and while in some cases there can be extremities, most of the common accommodations are never going to fall outside of what the EOC describes as reasonable accommodations. Some typical ones that you might find are maybe noise canceling earphones, a specific material of chair or desk mat or other type of office peripheral, or maybe just some extra short breaks throughout the day. Nothing that's outside of what would be deemed reasonable or legally required accommodations. Unfortunately, stigma and stereotypes aren't the only thing that those on the spectrum have to worry about when entering the workforce. There are plenty of other barriers to their entry into the workforce, and then there are even further barriers to them getting acclimated to their new work environment. Even just the interview process can be harsh, as, quote, autistic applicants are often screened out based on traits associated with the disability, such as a lack of eye contact, unconventional intonation when speaking, or difficulty identifying nonverbal social cues. That covers the stigma and barriers for autistic individuals, so now we know the issues. But the real question here is, how do we combat them?
I'd have to say gaining that knowledge, that understanding of being intentional as well as providing that individualized consideration are all areas that I think would help in diffusing or in blurring those stigmas that are unfortunately out there.
Individual consideration is very powerful. It's important to take a step back and make sure that you treat every individual as exactly that, an individual, taking into account their needs and providing via reasonable accommodations and just genuine understanding and empathy, and recognizing that some of these social traits that we expect, like handshakes, eye contact, certain postures, non-fidgeting, all of that can cause adverse impact or unintentional discrimination to neurodivergent individuals. Human resources in general is a huge part of diversity initiatives. They're the ones who do the hiring, they do the training, they help employees get acclimated, but another aspect that HR professionals must be extremely diligent about when it comes to neurodivergent individuals is having the right job fit.
I think it's very critical, though, to ensure that the work is meaningful, right? We want to ensure that we are matching the person with the job. So there has to be a level of meaning, a level of interest within it as well. I think that there are varied areas that we can tap into and just see where it fits into within whatever job opportunities are available. I will also say that in addition to that person job fit, there's also what a concept that's called person organization fit. Being a part of an organization that embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion, that is open to learning, that's a progressive learning organization.
Having a job that aligns with your interests is important for anyone. But for those on the spectrum, this is even more important due to one of the most common traits found in autistic individuals is the development of special interests, which can uniquely capture their attention in ways that other things just can't. And it can lead to some great benefits, like that 140% productivity increase that we mentioned earlier. While both the pre and post hiring process can be extremely tough for those on the spectrum, there is still one area, one thing that could possibly surpass them both in terms of how much trouble and how much of a barrier it is to those on the spectrum who wish to enter high level workforces. And unfortunate as it is to say, that thing is our public school systems and how they handle autism along with those who have it.
I think that there's great opportunity for growth. Research shows that individuals on the spectrum are diagnosed as early as 2, 3 years old, and there's opportunities even in elementary school to start helping our kids within the school environment and prep and plan and prep for future education endeavors. And so, whether that's in elementary school and moving forward and supporting the middle school environment, and then, of course, going on to high school, where that's a whole nother. So, I really do believe that there are opportunities, for instance, especially during transitionary periods as well, when you consider elementary to middle school, certainly middle school through to high school, for instance, because in high school there's so many different pressures, and there's a whole nother area of consideration to deal with there. So you also have to help in preparing students in our individuals on the spectrum, our autistic students, for what they may encounter even going in high school. I think that across the board there could be better preparation with regard to high school as well, because of course we know that's where there may be bullying, there's stigmas there as well, and we never know what individuals bring with them into the high school environment, whether it's high school, whether it's college. And so all of those areas we need to consider when offering supports or or certain types of supports for our students who may be on the spectrum as well.
Just as Dr. Ortiz put it, there is plenty of room for growth across the board when it comes to supporting autistic children in schools. Any house is only as strong as its foundation, and the same holds true for people. If the foundation propping them up, one that's supposed to help prepare them for the real world, is failing them, then it's no wonder that they're struggling in these situations. In my own personal experience, back in high school and in middle school, I saw that they would make the neurodivergent kids, such as those on the spectrum that they labeled as low to medium functioning, participate in janitorial activities throughout the day, essentially using them as free labor and conditioning them for a life of menial labor. And the ones labeled as high functioning were given little to no support at all. With a friend of mine, who will remain unnamed for privacy reasons, that I went to high school with has autism. But since they were high functioning, they didn't get much help at all, and the help that they did promise, they never actually delivered on. And to my dismay, similar stories can be found in various online communities centered around autism. Putting more funding and effort into properly preparing and supporting neurodiverse individuals in schools is, based off of my research, one of the most impactful ways to support neurodiverse people towards breaking down these barriers and the stigma and these stereotypes that essentially gatekeep higher level employment from an entire classification of people. In conclusion, there is an untapped well of potential for employers all around not only America, but the entire world. The autistic community is an ocean of incredible talent that, when properly utilized, can revolutionize entire industries and offer hefty benefits to any company capable of attracting, motivating, and retaining them as employees. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something from it all. Goodbye!